In the middle of a collapsing billion-dollar empire, while experts failed and enemies circled, it wasn't a top engineer, a veteran CEO, or a famous innovator who rose to save the day. It was a 16-year-old kid, someone the world had ignored, who uncovered a truth so shocking it could take down everything. Titan Tech Tower stood tall in the heart of the city, but inside, it was crumbling. Once celebrated as the most innovative technology company in the world, it was now drowning in failure, each new project collapsing faster than the last. Investors were pulling out, the stock price was in freefall, and whispers of bankruptcy filled every corner of the headquarters. Victoria Hayes, the sharp and determined billionaire CEO, watched her empire collapse from her glass office, the weight of millions of jobs and a global reputation pressing against her chest like a storm she couldn't control. In the chaos of the lobby below, employees rushed in and out, clutching papers, arguing, and blaming one another. Among them was a teenager no one noticed, a black boy named Elijah, who had slipped inside to deliver food for his uncle, a janitor working the night shift. But Elijah wasn't looking at the panicked workers. His eyes were fixed on the giant project screen that glowed across the lobby. Lines of code and red error signals scrolled endlessly, but to Elijah's sharp mind, they didn't look random. They looked like a puzzle, a pattern woven into the very system, almost as if someone wanted the failures to happen. He leaned forward, his heart pounding, whispering to himself, "This isn't a glitch, someone's doing this on purpose." While the world saw only chaos and ruin, Elijah saw something else entirely, a mystery hidden beneath the panic, one that called out to him as if daring him to solve it. He didn't know it yet, but in that moment, his quiet discovery was about to change not only the fate of Titan Tech but also the course of his own life forever. Elijah couldn't shake what he had seen on the screen that day. The endless red error codes weren't chaos. They were too precise, too deliberate, like someone had carefully stitched failure into Titan Tech's system. That night, while his uncle mopped the marble floors of the building, Elijah slipped into an empty workstation. His fingers hovered nervously over the keyboard, his heart thundering in his chest, but once he began typing, everything else disappeared. He moved through the system like a shadow, tracing paths of broken code that led deeper and deeper into the company's digital core. What he found made his breath catch. Buried inside the programming was a backdoor, an invisible tunnel built years ago that allowed someone to slip in and out unnoticed, planting traps and tearing down projects from within. This wasn't an accident. Someone was sabotaging Titan Tech, and they had been planning it for a long time. As he stared at the screen, a sick realization sank in. The backdoor had the fingerprints of the company's original architect, a legendary coder who had mysteriously disappeared after Titan Tech's early rise. Elijah whispered, "It's been here all along." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway, and he quickly minimized the screen. To his shock, it wasn't a guard or his uncle. It was Victoria Hayes herself, the CEO, looking exhausted and desperate. Her eyes narrowed as she spotted him. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Elijah hesitated, then turned the screen back toward her. "Your system isn't broken," he said softly, his voice steady despite his fear. "It's under attack." For a long moment, she just stared at him, stunned that a kid, just a boy no one had noticed, might have uncovered the secret that was tearing her empire apart. Victoria's sharp eyes stayed locked on Elijah as though she wasn't sure if she should believe him or have him thrown out immediately. No one had ever dared to step into her systems, not even her senior engineers, yet this boy, barely 16, was claiming to have found the company's deepest wound. Finally, she motioned him to follow. Inside her private office, she connected her personal terminal and challenged him. "Show me." Elijah's palms were sweating, but once his hands touched the keys, his fear faded into focus. Lines of code appeared, each explained with calm precision how the failures weren't random, how the backdoor rerouted commands, and how a hidden user was pulling the strings. Victoria watched, disbelief turning into awe. "Who taught you this?" she whispered. Elijah swallowed. "No one. Just books, the library, and practice." He glanced away, embarrassed. At that moment, Victoria called in her chief of cybersecurity, a hardened man with decades of experience. The expert laughed when he saw Elijah. This? A janitor's nephew? Waste of time. But within minutes, his smirk vanished. Elijah dismantled one of the planted traps before their eyes, revealing code the chief had overlooked for months. The room fell silent. Victoria leaned back in her chair, the weight of what she was seeing heavy on her face. This boy wasn't just lucky, he was a genius. But a dangerous question hung in the air. If Elijah could find the back door, could he also use it? Was he truly here to help, or was he part of the attack? I don't know why you're here, Victoria said slowly, her voice measured. But if you're telling the truth, then you may be the only chance we have. Elijah met her gaze, steady and unflinching. Then let me prove it. Later that evening, after hours of testing and proving his skills, Victoria sat across from Elijah in the quiet corner of her glass-walled office. The city lights sparkled behind him, but his shoulders slumped as though the weight of his world pressed down harder than any skyscraper. She asked him who he really was, and for the first time, the boy hesitated. Then, slowly, his story spilled out. His mother had once been a brilliant math teacher, the kind who filled their tiny apartment with chalkboards, books, and dreams. But when she passed away from illness, Elijah's world collapsed. His father, unable to cope, drifted away until he simply never came back, leaving Elijah alone with nothing but debts and an empty room. Homeless, he bounced between shelters and nights on benches, yet every morning, he went to the library. The computers were old, but they were all I had, he admitted, his voice low. I'd read coding manuals until they kicked me out at closing. I learned to listen to machines because people stopped listening to me. Victoria noticed how his fingers fidgeted as if typing invisible keys, his mind never leaving the world of logic and code. Beneath his brilliance was a boy who had been forced to raise himself, surviving on scraps while nurturing a gift no one cared to see. Numbers don't lie, he said quietly. People do. Systems break. But if you understand the language, you can fix them. You can make them honest again. For the first time, Victoria felt something unfamiliar stirring, respect laced with guilt. How many children like him had the world ignored? She looked at Elijah and realized he wasn't just a chance to save her company. He was a mirror showing her everything society had failed to protect. The boardroom was silent as Elijah tapped furiously on the keyboard, his face lit by the glow of cascading code. Every second mattered. The company's servers were seconds away from collapse, and with them, thousands of jobs and billions in investments. He traced the sabotage back to a single, elegant line of code, a trap buried years ago, now awakened to destroy everything. Sweat rolled down his forehead as Victoria, the billionaire CEO, watched helplessly, realizing the fate of her empire rested in the hands of a teenager no one had believed in. If I cut it here, Elijah whispered, the system will reboot, but the backdoor will be gone forever. If I miss, everything dies. With a final breath, he pressed enter. The room froze. For a terrifying heartbeat, the screens went black. Then slowly, the system roared back to life, stronger than before. Gasps filled the room, followed by stunned applause as the company's survival became clear. Reporters rushed to cover the miraculous save, and within hours, Elijah's name spread across the city as the prodigy who outsmarted the very architect who built the trap. Yet when asked what reward he wanted, Elijah simply said, a chance to learn, and a seat at the table. Victoria, overcome with pride, announced that not only would Elijah be adopted into her family but he would also lead a new initiative, funding education for underprivileged youth in technology. Sometimes, she told the world, the future isn't saved by the richest or the most powerful. It's saved by the ones you overlook. That night, Elijah sat in a warm office overlooking the skyline, sketching out blueprints for systems that could change the world. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving, he was leading. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Subscribe to Human Fables for more emotional and inspiring stories that touch the heart.